Page 2. And remember, product means multiply. And just to refresh everybody's memory, here's some odd integers, consecutive odd integers. And notice that to get to the next one, what do? You add 2. Add 2 to that, to 19, you get 21. Add 2 to 21, you get 22, and so on and so on. So if we call the first number x, the next number is x plus 2. Product means we're going to multiply them together. I don't need parentheses around that one. So here's the product of two consecutive odd integers, and is 143 translates to equals 143. Now you could get this answer by guessing and checking, but we want equation to be used, and not to mention there'll be negative solutions also, which you will not get by guessing and checking, most likely, unless you're a genius. Let's multiply this out. We get x squared plus 2x. And at the same time, we could take away 143 from both sides. And now we have the quadratic equal to 0, so we just had to factor this. We need a couple of numbers that do these two things. They got to add up to 2. They got to multiply out to negative 143. Here you go. Make that negative 11 and make that plus 13. Multiply those, you will get negative 143. Add them, you will get a plus 2. And it says this times this equals 0. So when does this equal 0? When x equals 11. This will equal 0 when x equals negative 13. Well, these are the two solutions for x, the first number. So if we use 11, the next consecutive odd integer would be 13. And notice if you multiply 11 times 13, you do get 143. If we say that the x is negative 13, then the next number, if that's negative 13, the next number is negative 13 plus 2 would be negative 11. That's two consecutive odd integers. Negative 13 times negative 11 also has a product of positive 143. So the solution is either 11 and 13 or negative 13 and negative 11. There's two pairs of numbers that will do what the question is asking for. And now for number 4. This says the height of an object launched directly upward with an initial velocity of 96 feet per second. In other words, if you shoot something straight up, like shoot it with a rubber band or with a bow and arrow, or throw a ball straight up at an initial velocity, meaning the speed at the time it leaves your launch mechanism, is 96 feet per second. The height is given by this equation, h equals negative 16 times t squared plus 96t. Looks terribly confusing, but the h just stands for how many feet high the thing is, and the t is to represent how many seconds have ticked by. So for instance, if you plug in 0 for t, what's the height at time 0? It would be 0 plus 0, it would be 0. Plug in 1, and this would be negative 16, and this would be 96, which adds up to 80. You can make a little table if you want, and put in 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll see what happens is the object gets higher and higher for a while, but as we all know, you throw something or shoot something straight up, it only goes so high, and then it starts to fall down. It only gets to a maximum height, and then it falls back to Earth. So you'll see the height go up for a while and then down. That's all this says here about what that stands for, and this is 100% true. This is from physics. It's not something I made up. We want to know how long will it take, which means what will be the number of seconds that'll have gone by for the object to get to a height of 144. This sounds so terribly complicated, but all you have to do is substitute the 144 right there. Make the height 144. Let's do that. 144 equals negative 16t squared plus 96t. And I'd like to get everything with the everything on one side leaves 0 on the other side, and I don't want to have a negative lead coefficient, so I'm going to add 16t squared to both sides, and I'm going to subtract 96t from both sides, and the result of that will be 16t squared minus 96t plus 144 equals 0. Now, remember the other equation where we divided everything by 2? Do you notice you could divide everything here by 4? In fact, if you check with the calculator, we can divide this by 16. Can we divide 96 by 16? 96 divided by 16 is 6. 144 divided by 16 is 9. Everything can be divided by 16. Let's do that. We'll get smaller, easier to work with numbers. I'm just dividing both sides of the equation by 16. Now I have 1t squared minus 6t plus 9 equals 0. And all I need now are a couple of numbers that add up to negative 6 and multiply out to 9. That will be a negative 3 and a negative 3. And we get the same expression twice. There's really only one solution to this, 3. So the end of the story is it takes 3 seconds for the object to get to a height of 144 feet. If you calculate negative 16 times 3 squared plus 96 times 3. There's the height after 3 seconds. Okay, that's the end of that. And finally, number 5. Which 5, by the way, this is usually more the type that you do see on the final exam. Usually, no promises. I don't know. I won't see the final for a few days yet. We got a rectangular garden. Let's draw a little picture of a rectangle. Beautiful. The length is 5 more than 4 times the width. The area is 26 square feet. Find the dimensions, which means find the length and the width of the garden. If we call this W for width, I can say that. 5 more than 4 times the width. 4 times the width looks like that. 5 more than 4 times the width looks like that. What do you do to get the area of a rectangle? You multiply the width times the length. So if we multiply these two expressions together, that is supposed to equal the area, which we are told is 26 square feet. Once you got that set up, if you know how to solve that, you're done. The rest is easy. Multiply that out. Get 4w squared plus 5w equals 26. Then we can subtract 26 from both sides. And this time, we can't divide everything by something and make the number smaller. Everything's not an even number here, for instance. So we have to use the AC method. And if you do 4 times A times C, 4 times negative 26, you get negative 104. And then we need 2 numbers that multiply out to negative 104, and at the same time add up to positive 5. And if you use a 13 and an 8 and make the 8 negative, 13 times negative 8, there's the negative 104, and 13 plus negative 8, there's the 5. So we're going to rewrite the middle term. Plus 13w minus 8w. Okay? What's the common factor for these two? Just a w. W times 4w plus 13. And the common factor here would be a minus 2. Minus 2 times 4w plus 13. Because that'll make the minus 26, right? So the factoring is 4w plus 13, w minus 2 equals 0. At this point, we have a factor times a factor equals 0. So what are the solutions to this equation? Negative 13/4 or positive 2. Now remember, we're looking for the width and length of this rectangle. Negative number here makes no sense whatsoever. So this is a nice solution to this equation, but it doesn't solve this story. It's not a valid number for the length of something. Put a 2 in there, though. If the width is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. If you have a 2 by 13 rectangle, that is 26 area, right? So the dimensions would be 2 feet by 13 feet. And that's the end of page 2. Hey, have a wonderful weekend. Monday's lesson is all review stuff. Stay safe.